Installation of a Calisto 5 or Calisto 9 online DGA monitor. Wiring the electrical connections. This video explains how to connect the safety ground, mains power, alarm relays, analog signals, and communication cables to a Calisto 5, Calisto 9. Power and communication connections to a Calisto 5 or Calisto 9 are made using the mains connection and communication interface boards.
Please pay close attention to this video. It is critical to ensuring the safety of your personnel and the error-free operation of your equipment. When properly installed, Calisto can be virtually maintenance-free and have more than 15 years of expected useful operating life.
You will need the following tools to complete the installations included in this video: a 2.3 mm, 3/32 of an inch flat screwdriver, a 3.5 mm, 1/8 of an inch flat screwdriver, a 6.5 mm, 1/4 of an inch flat screwdriver, a 1.13 Nm, 10-pound force-inch torque screwdriver, recommended, a cable ripper, a cable cutter, and a Phillips No. 1 screwdriver for optional boards. Other tools may be required depending on the cable hub used. The Calisto 5, Calisto 9 features 5 electrical entry holes on 2 removable plates. All entry holes are 22 mm, 7/8 of an inch, in diameter and can accept most 1/2 inch entry hub fittings. Waterproof rubber plugs are provided with the monitor to cover unused holes. Consider the following guidelines when wiring signal and communication cables. It is recommended that shielded cables designed for outdoor use be used. Avoid loops and minimize the length of the cables from the hub to the communication interface board of the monitor. Protect all wires and connectors against mechanical stress. Proper conduit connectors and fittings must be used to prevent water ingress to the monitor. When conduits are used, ensure that water cannot infiltrate either end of the conduit. Please remember to install the protective earth conductor on the protective conductor terminal, ground, before making any other connections. When uninstalling the monitor, remove all other connections before removing the protective earth connection.
Please ensure the integrity of the ground cable and ground connection. The protective earth conductor is very important for your safety.
The main location of the protective conductor terminal, ground, is inside the monitor near the mains board. An additional protective earth conductor may be fastened to the chassis using the existing hole on the right side of the bottom mounting flange of the monitor. To connect the earth ground, secure the protective earth conductor to the green screw on the right side of the protective conductor terminal, ground, with a minimum torque of 1.1 Nm, 10 inch per pound. Connecting the mains power. Here are the mains connection board components. 1. Overcurrent fuse, F1. 2. Power to PSU connector, TB2. 3. Thermal cutoff fuse connectors, J2. 4. Power LED. 5. Mains power connectors, TB1. The Calisto 5, Calisto 9 monitor accepts any supply voltage from 100 to 240 VAC with frequencies in the range of 50 to 60 Hz and from 100 to 220 VDC. Mains power connections are made to connector 1, neutral or minus, and connector 2, line or plus. The mains power connection may be made using either solid or stranded conductors. To help with the connection, it is recommended that ferrules be installed at the ends of stranded conductors. The connections must be made according to the following connector ratings. To connect the mains power, completely loosen each screw terminal, insert the conductor into the bottom of the terminal slot, and tighten the screw while holding the conductor to the bottom of the slot. Failure to hold the conductor to the bottom of the slot as the screw is tightened may lead to a weak connection and short circuit between wires and chassis of unit. To test the solidity of the connection, gently pull each connecting wire to ensure that no connection is loose. The nominal power of a Calisto 5, Calisto 9 is 350 watts. The monitor should be wired to draw power from a dedicated circuit breaker with suitable current and voltage ratings. A 10 amp to 15 amp breaker is recommended to tolerate inrush currents. Connecting the communication interface board. Here are the communication interface board components. 1. Programmable relay terminals, 1 to 5. 2. Relay activity LEDs. 3. Optional communication module port J6. 4. Optional communication module port J7. 5. Entry panel 1.2 volt power LED. 6. Entry panel 3.3 volt power LED. 7. IEC 61850 Ethernet port, copper. 8. Accessories power output. 9. 4-20 milliamps analog input terminals for IN1 and IN2. 10. J10 jumper to select internal or external power for 4-20 milliamp IN1. 11. ON LEDs for analog input power IN1 and IN2. 12. J16 jumper to select internal or external power for IN2. 13. RS-232 communication port. 14. Local USB Type B port. 15. Ethernet communication port, copper. 16. RS-485 communication port. 17. RS-485 RX and TX activity LEDs. 18. RS-485 end-of-line 120 ohms termination jumper. 19. Ethernet RX and TX activity LEDs. Connecting the alarm relays.
You may wish to use relays in anticipation of an event related to either gas in a oil or a fault on a unit.
Calisto models C501 and C901 feature 5 programmable dry contact output relays, which can be connected in a normally open NO or normally closed NC configuration. Terminals marked C are all commons and can be looped together into a single common if all signals route to the same location. Terminals marked SHLD can be used to terminate an alarm cable shield to the earth ground. If the optional relay card is installed, an additional 5 relays are available. Here are the pin assignments of the J12 connectors. The relay connections must be made according to the following connector rating. Recommended use of the alarm relays. To connect the relay connections, completely loosen each screw terminal. Insert the conductor into the bottom of the terminal slot and tighten the screw while holding the conductor to the bottom of the slot. Connecting the analog inputs.
You may wish to use 4 to 20 mA channels to transmit equivalent ppm values to a central system that determines the health of the transformer.
Calisto 5, Calisto 9 features two 4-20 mA analog inputs. One analog input must be used to read the carrier gas pressure from the 4-20 mA sensor on the carrier gas manifold. By default, analog input IN1 is configured for this purpose.
The transformer oil temperature and the loads can be recorded by the Calisto 5 and the Calisto 9 using suitable transducers connected to the 4 to 20 mA inputs.
If the optional 4-20 mA card is installed, two additional 4-20 mA analog input and 10 4-20 analog outputs are available. If jumper J10 or J16 is set to internal power, a supply voltage of 24 volts will be provided by the Calisto to power a transducer connected to analog input IN1, IN3, or IN2, IN4, respectively. The 4-20 mA pressure transducer on the carrier gas manifold requires this internal power configuration. For self-powered 4-20 mA transducers, jumper J10 or J16 should be set to external power. Here are the pin assignments of the J11 analog input connectors. The pin assignments of the J2 and J4 analog output connectors are as follows. The 4-20 mA analog input and output connections must be made according to the following connector ratings. The maximum length of the wires depends on the resistance of the client load and the acceptable noise level. The load resistance must be in the range of 0 to 500 ohms, including resistance of the wires. Connecting the RS485 communication port. Calisto 5, Calisto 9 features one RS485 communication port. RS485 serial option is used to digitally integrate Calisto into the Centralized Data Management System, SCADA, that also allows decision-making. Here are the pin assignments of the J13 RS485 connector. The RS485 connections must be made according to the following connector ratings. Here is some important information about the RS485 communication. The range for RS485 communication can span up to 1,200 meters, 4,000 feet. Industrial-grade shielded twisted pair cable of minimum 0.33 mm squared, 22 AWG, should be used. The RS485 common signal ground must be connected on both the Calisto 5, Calisto 9 monitor, pin 3, marked COM, and on the client RS485 device. The RS485 shielding ground must be connected to the chassis ground, or SHLD, on either the monitor or the client's device. The communication interface board provides a 120 ohm terminating resistor that may be used to terminate the RS485 link. To connect the terminating resistor, install the provided jumper across the pins of J15, which is located next to the RS485 connector. The supported protocols over RS485 are MSSP, Morgan Schaffer Systems Protocol, DNP3, Modbus. Connecting the RS232 communication. Here are the pin assignments of the J17 RS232 connector. The RS232 connections must be made according to the following connector ratings. Here is some important information about the RS-232 communication. The maximum recommended range for RS-232 communication is 15 meters, 50 feet. Industrial-grade shielded twisted pair cable of minimum 0.33 mm squared, 22 AWG, should be used. The RS-232 signal ground must be connected on both the Calisto 5, Calisto 9 monitor, pin 3 marked GND, and on the client RS-232 device. The RS-232 port does not provide high-voltage isolation. To avoid potential damage to the monitor electronics, RS-232 port should only be used for temporary local connection using a portable computer. Calisto 5, Calisto 9 RS-232 communication only supports Morgan-Schaffer Systems Protocol, MSSP. Connecting the Ethernet communication. Calisto 5, Calisto 9 features two RJ45 Ethernet ports, J8 and J12, which allow the monitor to be connected to a computer or to a corporate LAN or WAN. Ethernet connection must be made according to the following connector ratings. Here is some important information about the Ethernet communications. The maximum recommended range for an Ethernet connection is 80 meters, 262 feet. It is recommended that an industrial FTP or SCTP cable suitable for outdoor use, oil and sun resistant, be used. Multiple Calisto Ethernet ports, RJ45 or optic, should not be connected to the same physical network unless a managed switch is used and configured with VLANs or a spanning tree protocol is enabled. The supported protocols over Ethernet are MSSP, Morgan-Schaffer Systems Protocol, DNP3, Modbus. Connecting the USB communication. The Calisto 5, Calisto 9 communication interface board includes a Type B USB port. This port is mostly used locally with the unit for commission and/or troubleshooting. Here is important information regarding the USB communications. The USB port does not provide high-voltage isolation. To avoid potential damage to the monitor electronics, USB port should only be used for temporary local connection using portable computers. It is convenient to use the USB port for the configuration, setup, and maintenance of the monitor. Connecting the Optical Ethernet card. The Optical Ethernet card enables point-to-point fiber optic Ethernet connection up to a 2-kilometer range. The card accepts duplex clip multimode fiber optic cable with SC connector. To connect the fiber optic cable, remove the protective cap from the fiber and the receptacle. Make sure to insert the optical fiber completely into the receptacle. It is recommended that you create one loop of fiber optic cable between the hub and the receptacle. Connecting the optional communication cards. There are two ports on the communication interface board, J6 and J7, where optional communication cards may be installed. 3 optional communication cards are available. 4-20 milliamp card, port J7 only, relay cards, port J6 only, optical Ethernet card, port J6 or J7 or both. A maximum of 2 cards can be installed in the Calisto. Caution: to avoid damaging the electronics, it is important to power off the Calisto before installing or uninstalling optional communication cards. This completes the wiring process for the electrical and communication connections.
Please remember to follow these instructions carefully and contact us if you have any questions. Calisto can be virtually maintenance-free when properly installed. If you have any questions about this procedure, please feel free to ask for our help. Morgan Schaffer offers worldwide service and technical support. We are here to help you.
For detailed information, please refer to the Calisto 5 and Calisto 9 installation and operation manual, or contact Morgan Schaffer's Technical Support Department. This video was produced by Morgan Schaffer, a Doble engineering company, subsidiary of ESCO Technologies.